A beloved 90s horror movie getting the remake treatment from Happy Death Day director Christopher Landon. Film Geek's favorite director finally starting his own film podcast. Two major horror film franchises finally getting the respect they deserve. Netflix Geeked Week info, huge physical media news, and much, much more on this week's Horror News Weekly Roundup. Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, Justin here, welcome back. And guys, last night I achieved something truly spectacular. I managed to defeat and conquer an entire pint of the brand new Little Debbie Star Crunch ice cream, and I am paying for it today. But if you think that's gonna stop me from completely annihilating this entire pint of Little Debbie oatmeal cream pie ice cream, you're sorely mistaken. My willpower is strong and I will finish this entire pint. Not really movie related, but I just wanted to share with you guys that things like this exist in the world. It's the little things that make us happy in this world, am I right? What do you think, Pete? That was a look of shame. Peter, I couldn't have asked for a better reaction. Thank you for keeping me in check and shaming me regularly. Guys, what is going on? Welcome back. I hope everybody's having a fantastic day, and welcome to another episode of the Horror News Weekly Roundup. This is where I talk about everything that happened in the world of genre that mattered to me and hopefully for you. As usual, we're going to kick off with our quick bites, short stories that I found interesting that I wanted to share with you guys. Then, of course, we'll move on to the what the fuck news of the week, and then our main stories, followed by the weekly recommendations. Every week, I recommend you guys a podcast, a movie, a TV show, an article, something that interests me that I think you guys will find interesting. So be sure and stay tuned all the way to the end for your weekly recommendations. I have some good ones. I have a documentary and a podcast I want to let you guys know about this week. As usual, timestamps are embedded in the video in case you want to jump to a certain story or certain part of the video. All related articles and references are linked in the description down below. Please do think about subscribing, check out my other content. With all that said, let's jump into the news. Starting off with our quick bites. First up in physical media news, Scream Factory is upgrading the first 3 Child's Play movies to 4K and Ultra HD. Scream Factory has announced that Child's Play 2, and Child's Play 3 are all coming to 4K Ultra HD on August 16th, which can be purchased solo or part of special bundles. Guys, these releases look absolutely incredible. It's so amazing we're getting upgrades to these. Now, if you're not familiar with Scream Factory's releases, oftentimes with these flagship releases, they'll do bundles. Now, if you don't need all the bells and whistles, the slipcovers, the posters, NECA figures, all that stuff, you'll be able to purchase these individually and for a cheaper price on other retail websites like Walmart, Amazon. Ordering directly from Scream Factory is the most expensive option, but if you want all the bells and whistles, you're gonna have to go to Scream Factory's website. But either way, the artwork's great. These restorations will look incredible in 4K. I cannot wait for all these movies. Also in physical media news, Robert Eggers' The Northman is getting the 4K and Blu-ray treatment. That'll be released this Tuesday, June 7th. So if you're interested in getting that on physical media, especially that first pressing with the slipcover for slipcover nerds like me, be sure to pick that up. I have a feeling the slipcover will not last that long. These genre films tend to go pretty quick, but I wanted to let you know that will be available this Tuesday as well. Next up, moving on, guys, as horror fans, we are always looking for that next horror movie that isn't part of a major franchise, that isn't a reboot or a remake. And this recent article from Bloody Disgusting highlights 6 brand new movies that you can watch starting this week that are all original horror concepts, including a brand new movie called Crimes of the Future, which is the triumphant return of body horror master David Cronenberg. Also highlighted is the Epix and Blumhouse collaboration Unhuman. Unhuman was directed by Marcus Dunstan, the director of The Collector and The Collection. Unhuman tells the story of a high school field trip gone bloody awry. 7 misfit students must band together against a growing gang of unhuman savages. The group's trust in each other is tested to the limit in brutal, horrifying fight to survive, and they must take down the murderous zombie creatures before they kill each other first. Also out this week is The Watcher. A young American woman moves with her husband to Bucharest and begins to suspect that a stranger who watches her from the apartment building across the street may be a local serial killer decapitating women. Also out this week is a really interesting looking found footage movie called Dashcam, which I'm really looking forward to. Delayed since 2021, but finally available to watch this week. Dashcam tells the story of 2 friends who embark on a horror-fueled road trip and live stream the most terrifying night of their lives. Also highlighted is Spanish film Passengers. So there you have it, folks. 6 brand new non-franchise, non-remake horror movies that you can watch this week. I'll link that article down below with links on how to watch them. Also in this week's quick news, NECA shows off 40th anniversary Creepshow action figure. NECA has already released a couple figures of the Creep from Shudder's Creepshow anthology series, but next they're giving the same treatment to the original Creep. The figure is based on Stephen King and George Romero's 1982 anthology film Creepshow, which of course served as the basis for Shudder's spin-off television series. The Creep stands over 7 inches tall and is fully posable with over 25 points of articulation. The figure features a fabric robe with wire armature so you can give it just the right positioning. The Creep also comes with interchangeable heads, pumpkin, candle, and Creepshow comic book accessories, collector-friendly window box packaging with opening front flap. Also, another Creepshow news, brand new Creepshow comic book series launching this Halloween season. While we wait for season 4 of the Shudder Creepshow series, we've learned from Entertainment Weekly that an official Creepshow comic is on the way from Skybound this year. The 5-issue comic book anthology will launch September 21st of this year. EW notes that each issue will feature different creative teams from the worlds of comics, film, television, and beyond. This is a true full circle moment for the Creepshow brand, which began its life as an anthology horror movie that was based on the horror comics of the 50s and 60s. And finally, in our last bit of quick news, Chris Hemsworth shares first set photo from Mad Max Fury Road prequel Furiosa as production starts. It looks like the long-awaited prequel to Mad Max Fury Road is finally in production. George Miller once again takes the seat as director as he further explores the early days of Charlize Theron's Furiosa. Not much is yet known about how they'll tackle her story, but we do know that Anya Taylor-Joy will take over the iconic role. Hemsworth has taken to his Instagram account to share that production has started on the film with a first look from the set. It's pretty incredible that a film series that started over 40 years ago, the first movie came out in 1979, leading up to the last installment, Mad Max Fury Road, that came out a few years ago. If you have not seen Mad Max Fury Road, it is unbelievable. Not only is it just an incredible movie, but it's just a major achievement in filmmaking with all of the practical in-camera things that madman George Miller was able to achieve. I know Charlize Theron is a little bummed that she's not returning to reprise her role, but I am a huge Anya Taylor-Joy fan, so I'm excited to see her take this role and see what she can do with it. So nearly 50 years in the making, we're getting a brand new Mad Max movie, so I'm looking forward to that. Now moving on from our quick news and going on to the what the fuck news of the week. And that what the fuck news story is the brand new Kevin Spacey joint, Peter 5'9".
What the fuck?
Released this week is the laughably bad debut trailer from Kevin Spacey's sad new movie, Peter 5'8". What a fall from grace. A seemingly glamorous real estate agent in a small mountain community is revealed to be an unhinged alcoholic with a dark secret when a charismatic man in black shows up one day at the behest of his shadowy boss. Everything about this trailer and everything in this production just reeks of exploiting controversy. This movie looks amateurish, it looks terrible, it looks awful. The only making the fall from grace, doing direct-to-streaming, direct-to-Redbox style movies that many aging stars have fallen into. John Cusack, Christian Slater, Bruce Willis, Nicolas Cage, John Travolta, and now Kevin Spacey has joined the ranks of these direct-to-streaming, direct-to-physical media releases that are just baffling. But I'm going to link this trailer down below. Watch the trailer for Peter 5'8". It looks... what a shit show. What a fall from grace. What a piece of shit Kevin Spacey is. That's this week's What the Fuck news.
What the fuck?
Now with all that out of the way, guys, let's jump into the main stories of today's weekly news. Kicking it off with everything you need to know about Netflix Geeked Week, which kicks off June 6th this Monday and runs through Friday, June 10th. If you're not familiar with Geeked Week, it's a 5-day free virtual event celebrating Netflix genre series, films, and games that runs June 6th through the 10th across all of your favorite platforms. You can expect tons of exclusive news, new trailers, celebrity appearances, and so much more. Every day promises lots of excitements, including exclusive teaser and trailer premieres, sneak peeks, surprise announcements, never-before-seen footage, cast interviews, script table reads, and much more, covering more than 60 Netflix projects. There is even an entire day dedicated to Stranger Things. One of the things that I'm most excited about is any information that we may get about Tim Burton's Wednesday series. So details in the schedule is far too much for me to go to in detail in this video, but I will link the website and the complete schedule down below so you can stay up to date with everything to do with Netflix's. Next up, Happy Death Day director Christopher Landon to write, direct Arachnaphobia Remake for Amblin Partners, with James Wan, Atomic Monster banner producing. James Wan, Atomic Monster, and Arachnaphobia original director will produce the Arachnaphobia Remake. The original Arachnaphobia centers on a small town terrorized by a colony of deadly South American spiders accidentally brought to the US. Jeff Daniels starred as a doctor who moves his family from the big city for the calm, bucolic small town life, with John Goodman, he's so amazing in that role, playing the know-it-all exterminator. James Wan's Atomic Monsters next has an adaptation of Stephen King's Salem's Lot. That'll be hitting theaters September 9th. For those of you who may not be familiar with 1990s Arachnaphobia, it is absolutely amazing. It is equal parts cheesy, scary, gross. It's a comedy, it's a horror. John Goodman absolutely steals the show as this kooky exterminator who tries to fight these thousands and thousands of spiders that spawn from the basement of a house and attack the entire neighborhood.
Rock and roll.
Everything about it is amazing. And I actually have high hopes for this movie, being that I'm pretty confident in James Wan as a producer, as well as Christopher Landon as a director. I think this could be a very, very fun project. I know there's a lot of sticklers with remakes, but I think this one has a potential. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of this. Next up, we're going to be talking about my personal favorite writer-director, Quentin Tarantino, and his brand new Video Archives podcast. Tarantino teams up again with Pulp Fiction co-screenwriter and fellow former Video Archives co-worker Roger Avary to discuss the classic collection of cult films. The duo met back in 1983 when working at the famed video rental store in Manhattan Beach, California. The long closed shop housed close to 8,000 VHS tapes and DVDs, which Tarantino purchased in 1995, the same year he and Avary won the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay for Pulp Fiction. Now, in the Video Archives podcast, Tarantino and Avary rewatched the original tapes from the original Video Archives collection, featuring movies like Dark Star, Moonraker, Demonoid, Messenger of Death, and Piranha. The podcast launches July 19th and is produced by Sirius and subsidiary Stitcher. Tarantino says, "We never imagined that 30 years after we worked together behind the counter at the video store, we could be back together again doing the exact same thing we did back then, talking passionately about movies on VHS." The podcast promises to rewatch everything from controversial James Bond films to surprising exploitation flicks, to ultimately expose listeners to movies they didn't know they'd love, give awards to their favorites, and of course, rate the quality of the video transfer. The Video Archives podcast will also discuss the original trailers as included on the VHS tapes while discovering the hidden VHS gems on our shelves. I heard about this podcast long ago on the Big Picture podcast, and it's just absolutely incredible to think that Tarantino purchased all of those thousands of VHS tapes that really he made his bones with working in this small little video shop, and now he's gonna revisit all of these old VHS tapes with the original co-writer of Pulp Fiction for this. But guys, that is it for the main features. Now moving on to the final segment, my personal weekly recommendations. I have a podcast and a documentary that I want you guys to check out. First up, I'm going to recommend one of my favorite podcasts. As you guys know, I consume podcasts at quite an alarming rate. It's all I do during the day, being that I drive around in a truck all day. I got nothing but time, and I listen to hundreds of hours of podcasts a year, and this one is one of my favorite, Colors of the Dark. Fangoria has teamed up with some of the leading horror genre experts to bring you Colors of the Dark. Join host Dr. Rebecca McKendry, Professor Fangoria and writer-director, and Elric Kane, Professor, Pure Cinema Podcast, and filmmaker, as they take a deep look at the horror genre. Each show explores a specific part of horror history, key players, franchises, deep-cut titles, important films, and interviews some of the world's biggest icons. I love both of the hosts of this show. Rebecca McKendrick is a director and a film aficionado. She's a film professor, and I love her taste in film because she loves the 80s cheese, creature features and the B-movie content that I love, so I love getting her recommendations. Elric Kane is also the same, but he has a slightly more refined taste, but they both love all genres of horror. Being that they are filmmakers and producers, they talk about a lot of insider filmmaker information, their favorite films, deep diving forgotten films, and introducing me on a regular basis to so many films that I may not have ever known about. For a big part of each episode, both of them go back and forth and basically just talk about what they've been watching. I have found so many hidden gems and movies that I probably wouldn't have heard of if it weren't for this podcast. I love it. And they also bring on many filmmakers, actors to talk about their most recent projects, their favorite films, tons of interviews, insider information, behind the scenes, movie recommendations, especially of the B-movie and super deep dive in the genre. So highly recommend checking out Colors of the Dark. You guys will love it. And finally, a recommendation for a series of movies that I'm currently working on a deep dive video for, and that is the Paradise Lost true crime documentary series documenting the West Memphis 3. These were some brutal child murders that happened in the mid-90s, and the 3 suspects that were ultimately arrested, charged, and imprisoned for the murders. Now, this story has evolved for over 30 years and still is sort of evolving now. I don't want to give up any sort of details. The first movie came out in, I believe, 1996, Paradise Lost, the child murders at Robin Hood Hills, followed by Paradise Lost 2 Revelations, that details what happens after the conviction and imprisonment of the 3 suspects. And then there's a third movie called Purgatory, which picks up decades after everything that happens. I don't want to spoil, but
we, the jury, find Jesse Lloyd Miskelly Jr. guilty of second-degree murder, Jason Baldwin guilty of capital murder, Damian Eccles guilty of capital murder.
This doesn't change anything.
Our son.
But what I will say about Paradise Lost is this movie, in my opinion, changed the game as far as it went, as far as documentary. Up until this point, there had never, ever been a documentary that was so graphic, so in your face, so detailed, that also had just incredible access to everybody involved in the case, including the imprisoned suspects, their legal teams, the parents of these child victims. It is oftentimes hard to watch because you have extremely graphic crime scene footage, including the bodies of the children, which were mutilated almost in a ritualistic aspect, courthouse footage. I cannot stress enough how this is the true crime documentary that started it all. Check these out. I cannot recommend them enough. I know it's a little bit of a deep dive, but I assure you that if you are into true crime, you're into horror, you're into the fascination with the dark side of human nature, this will probably be the best true crime documentary you have ever seen, and I don't say that lightly. So I remember when I saw this on HBO, I had never ever seen anything like it. It's absolutely amazing. So definitely check out Paradise Lost by Joe Berlinger, who has also given us so many other amazing documentaries. He also wrote the script for Blair Witch 2. But guys, that is it. Another jam-packed horror news weekly roundup. I think we're done here. Pete, we are all finished. So guys, stay weird. Remember to